Welcome back to the channel. This video is going to kind of be a part two of putting the short block together. I've got everything clean and ready to go pretty well now. Cam bearings are already installed. Cam plug is installed. I've kind of washed down and cleaned the whole block ready for assembly. I got the oil gallery plugs in already. This Performance World block uses mostly standard 351 parts, but as I mentioned in the last video, if you watched, it has Cleveland size mains, but it also uses Dart cam bearings. So I found out when I originally bought the standard 351 cam bearings that they don't work in this block. It needs the aftermarket cam bearings. So I got those through Dart, got the cam bearings all installed, and I'm going to go ahead and get the cam in. This cam is a custom one from Zach Smith at ZSR Racing Engines. He was really good. Sent him a list of everything that was going on in the combo of this engine, and he got this one made for me. It's a solid roller, just normal 351 journals, firing order, all that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the camera set up, and then I'll get the cam put in and go from there. All right, I've already got lube on all the cam bearings in the block. I like using this Permatex Ultra Slick. I think it works really good. I like to do it is just kind of one at a time, getting the first part in, and then you can kind of use the bearing to have somewhere to sit the cam while you lube up the rest of it so that it stays a little bit cleaner. Just want to be careful when you're installing the cam to not nick or hit any of the bearings with the lobes, because the cam bearings are very soft, so they can be quite easy to damage if you're not careful. Cam gear itself, rather than lube, I like to use this grease. This is from Driven. It's like the Joe Gibbs brand. They make like all the GP1 oil and stuff like that. So I like using this just on the gear. It sticks to it a lot better. The Permatex stuff sticks good onto the bearings, but it is still a little runny. So on stuff like the gear, if the engine sits for a couple months before I fire it up, it would all just run right off of there. The grease does a lot better job of sticking to it. There, and that's installed. Spins very free. There's no tight spots or nothing. This lube is very sticky, so it does have quite a bit of resistance, but really you would want to feel if there's any tight spots or if it doesn't want to spin very smooth in certain places. But this feels very smooth all the way around, so I'm happy with that. I'll get the retaining plate and stuff put together and then get that on. Okay, on the front now with this timing kit I've got, it's from Rollmaster, and it actually uses a roller bearing for the front, and then there's another one on the back of the cam gear. So comes with those pieces, and then because this retainer plate is pretty thick, it also has these countersunk bolts that come with it. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit of grease or oil on the faces of these bearings, and then a little bit of blue Loctite on the bolts, and they get torqued to 10 foot-pounds normally, but they just need to be snug. So a little bit of blue Loctite on there, and those will be good. All right, and I can, now that that part's on, I'll start getting ready to get the crank in. So I'll snap all the bearings in place. The bearings that go on the block side obviously have the oil groove in them to get fed oil through the gallery in the block, and then they've got the little tang on the back side that sits in the little register for it on the block. Number 3, this one has the thrust. And then before I set the crank in, I'll probably go ahead. I've got all the stuff laid out, so I'll probably get the studs out and thread it into the block. All the studs, they just need to be hand tight into the block. You don't want to these studs, you do not want to torque them down or anything. So obviously for number 1, this one, yeah, just thread it in. Hand tight is good enough. Yeah, you don't want to torque them down or nothing like that. So I'll go ahead, get all the studs in, get the bearings put in the main caps, and then set the crank in. Can't really have too much of this, so I'll just make sure all the bearings are coated, especially on the thrust here on number 3. Want to make sure the sides are coated well too. Okay, I already got the rear main seal on the crank. I usually always forget to do that, but if I don't know, I find putting it on now is way easier than trying to beat it on when the cap is already torqued down. So that has a lot of grease on it. This is also a Performance World crank. It's 4340 forged, so should be able to handle plenty for this setup. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start putting the main caps on. One thing to note, the little tang or lock has to match on the block. See, on one side there is a lock as well, so those always go together. If you're ever wondering which way the cap goes on the block itself, these locks should always be facing each other. So yeah, with that in mind, we'll go put some more assembly lube on the top bearing. And then after I get them all on, I'll kind of seat them with a rubber mallet. On the numbers 2, 3, 4 on the Performance World block, I don't know if you'll see, but it is also marked for the location 2, 3, and 4. And then obviously number 1 and 5 aren't marked, but they look a lot different from the rest, so you can't get them confused. And before I put the number 5 cap down, I usually should put some silicone on the sealing edges, just a really small amount, or kind of on the parting edges, because if you don't put any silicone on that back side there, they do tend to leak kind of right at the parting line here where the cap meets the block. So I'll quickly put a dab of just black silicone kind of right at the parting line there, and then that should prevent any seepage from happening. Okay, I can go ahead. All the main cap fasteners, they all need ARP Ultra Torque lube on the bottom side of the nut and both sides of the washers. So go through and get all the washers and nuts coated with this and get them on, and then I can torque all the mains down. All right, everything's got a bunch of ARP Ultra Torque lube on it, so I'll just run these down and then torque them. All right, the torque spec on the centers is 110. So I'll do those in kind of 3 steps. So I'll start out at 40, and then I'll probably do 70 or 80 and then 110. Start at the center one and then kind of rotate your way out. At 110. All right, and then the torque on the outers for the middle 3 is 55. I don't really bother doing these in multiple steps because the torque is so low anyway. And then the outers on number 1 and 5 is 45 for the torque. Okay, that's done. Spins very smooth. You just want to feel if there's any tight spots in the crank, but it feels perfect all the way around. I'll have to set or check the end play next. So I'll go ahead and get my dial indicator out and get set up and do that. All right, all set up to measure the thrust. clearance, so I'll push the crank all the way to the back and then all the way to the front and see how much movement it has, basically. I think the spec on this, according to the book I have, it should be between 4 and 8 thousandths. Varies a little bit depending on where you look and ask how much, but somewhere in that range. I would think more towards that 8 thousandths will be what I want. So I'll get the camera set up on the dial indicator and see where this one measures out at. Okay, crank is all the way pushed back right now. The dial indicator is zeroed out. So if I go ahead and push it all the way forward, you'll see that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 thousandths. So that's perfectly within the spec of what it should be, right at 7 thousandths. All right, and now I can get the timing chain and everything on. Like I mentioned, this is from Rollmaster, double roller, and then this also has a roller bearing on the backside. So the crank sprocket has adjustment to go up to 8 degrees advanced or retarded, but it's just installed straight up right now at 0 degrees, and then once we degree the cam, I can see if I need to change that at all. So I just need to line up the dot on the cam sprocket with the 0 mark that's on the crank sprocket. All right, and there you could see the 0 on the crank sprocket lined up with the dot that's on the cam sprocket. This bolt's just snugged down for now. Once I go through and check the center line and degree the cam and everything, I can take that cam bolt back out and torque it properly. That's kind of everything on the bottom end wrapped up. I'll roll this over now and I can start putting pistons and rods in this. All right, everything went together pretty good. They're all installed. I just have to torque them still, but I mean, even with this small wrench, everything spins over super smooth. There's no tight spots or nothing. So my adapter for my torque wrench broke when I went to torque the first cap, so I'll gotta buy a new one tomorrow, and then I'll get all of those torqued down. Probably gonna end this video here, and then the next video I'll get a cylinder head on this thing, check piston to valve clearance, degree the cam, and then measure for what push rods I need. So yeah, check back in a week for the next video, and thanks for watching.